Sati. Awaken to the present.
Welcome to Sati as we discuss mindfulness and the path to awakening. Every Esala Poya, our temples are filled with devotees clad in white. We see oil lamps lit and the familiar rhythm of Pali stanzas. But beneath the centuries of beautiful tradition that especially we in Sri Lanka have practiced lies a radical psychological invitation. And Esala marks the exact moment that a young seeker named Siddhartha Gautama, having woken up to the true nature of reality, decided to share his diagnosis of human suffering. And today on Sati, as always, as we do, we step away from the comforting rhetoric of ritual to ask and find out and to understand the deeper meaning of awakening, to understand what truly mindfulness means, and to discuss mindfulness, the path to awakening. I've invited with much respect to our studios the Venerable Brisbane Dhammarakkhita Thera. Most respectfully, I welcome you to our studios. I want to start off where I stopped at the introduction, Venerable Thera. Mindfulness. Have you understood what mindfulness is? Lord Buddha, upon enlightenment, shared his philosophy, his diagnosis of suffering. But today, are we only focused on the suffering? And have we forgotten to go beyond that suffering to let go?
Understanding the suffering itself is the way out. But the question is whether people understand that we are suffering. And Buddha's initial teaching in the Four Noble Truths, the first one is the truth of suffering. But ask anybody outside, and we ask ourselves, are we really accepting the fact that we are suffering, is a question. So therefore, Buddha introduced a way to see, yes, not that there are pleasant sensations, not that there are happiness from other sources, but all these sources are having very limited happiness. And Buddha said that all these things are leading only to suffering, and there is a long-lasting happiness, which is far beyond the misconceived happiness that we have. So for that, Buddha introduced a technique beyond what existed then, and that has gone missing, that has gone down the drain, that has gone under the carpet. So as Buddhists, this is a question that we should ask, that what did Buddha actually taught us? What is the practical way to come out of suffering?
Venerable, significantly, the first sermon, deconstructing the diagnostic tool, the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, the discourse, the first discourse was preached, was shared many thousands of years ago on an Esala Poya day. But how do the Four Noble Truths apply to our modern anxieties, the struggle that we have within our chaotic minds? You mentioned about suffering, but I also want to find out in your response what suffering is, because what we see as luxuries could probably be suffering in your understanding and as the Buddha taught.
Yeah, and Buddha has given a very fine definition of what suffering is in the Four Foundations of Mindfulness, a lengthy one. And he said, in short, the 5 clinging aggregates is the suffering. In other words, we will be admiring a form, we will be admiring sensation, we will be admiring perceptions, we will be admiring mental volitions, and we will be admiring consciousness at varying degrees of our existence. Right? So all these things, if you are clinging on to anything, Buddha said that is a suffering. So it is not the suffering that we see in human world, it is suffering, that suffering exists even beyond human existence. In other words, someone who practices the path or practices meditation will be able to move away from sensuality. But they will be hooked up in other non-material forms. That is also a clinging. And in all those clinging, Buddha said suffering is existing. And Buddha came to this world not to take us away from sensuality. Because even before Buddha, there were people who are looking for answers to another alternative to sensuality. And there have been people who have been practicing. And what Buddha found was even those people are hooked into their own achievements. So therefore, the suffering is in not only form, it is available even in sensations and other mental processes. So what did Buddha teach to come out of it? And the present day anxiety and whatever you call it, depression, maybe tension, whatever you call it, that is exactly what Buddha said. When you live, you will have to suffer, no doubt. And for a very insignificant happiness, we are having a tremendous amount of suffering. And we don't see that. People don't see that. And it's the misconception of happiness that we have. So in the name of happiness, we are happy to suffer.
So what we understand now is that what we try to achieve in the name of happiness is suffering. What we try to possess in the name of happiness and achievement is a suffering or dukkha. What must be our final goal here? We talk about enlightenment, Venerable Thera. We talk about letting go. But how do we really get there? What does it mean to be mindful? Where do we begin here? One might say, let go. Just discard of what you hold so dearly or possess so closely. But where do we really begin?
Yeah, there were a few things in your question. One is, where do we go? What is the target? That itself is the problem. Having a target is creating suffering. And we look for suffering somewhere else. We look for enlightenment somewhere else. We think enlightenment is there and we will have to go there. It is not that. We are already enlightened unless we look for anything outside. We will have to look for things. You will have to be with you now. You will have to be with you right here, and that is where the enlightenment starts. And if you think that there is something, that someplace that we will have to achieve, we will be always working in an agitated manner. That agitation itself is suffering. So therefore, a lot of people who are really practicing as well, trying to reach, trying to achieve something, instead of understanding the suffering that you have now. We are suffering now. What Buddha says is, see that suffering and accept that suffering. And when we don't accept the suffering, we are continuously reacting to make it good. That continuous reaction is the hatred that we generate, and that is what is fueling our existence.
Does this mean even the attachment or the craving to achieve an enlightened state reconnects us to the cycle of suffering?
Exactly.
Bhante, in modern day, we hear a lot about mindfulness as a way out of anxieties in modern day, the chaotic lifestyle that we see. From the Buddha's philosophy, what must we let go? I want to really delve deep into that.
What we will have to let go is the clinging that we have. And the first thing what Buddha tries to take away is the misconception that we have about self, which we call sakkaya ditthi. Self-view is a wrong view that we have, that there is a person here, that there is an individual here, that there is someone who is doing, that there is me here. And that is the first thing that Buddha is taking away by introducing the technique of mindfulness. But when we talk about mindfulness, I'm not quite sure whether I'm bringing this forward prematurely. What is mindfulness is very important to understand. And what I have seen in my number of years of practice and number of years of teaching is that a lot of people don't understand what exactly mindfulness is. And I have asked, wherever I go to teach mindfulness, the first question I'm asking is, what is meditation? And they have a given set of answers. And then I'm asking, what is mindfulness? They have a given set of questions. Very rarely I have received the correct answer. So the thing is, we know mindfulness is the answer, but we don't know what mindfulness is. So therefore we are just going in circles as if a dog is trying to bite its own tail. Never be able to touch that. That is simply because we don't have the right perception of what mindfulness is. And we are bogged down in the techniques and various other things that we are taught, and we don't understand the real meaning of mindfulness.
So does this mean mindfulness is far beyond the techniques or the practices that we endeavor or put so much effort into, but in the now, in the present stillness of enlightenment, what do we have there?
Yeah, there are two things. Number one, now your question is what is there in the enlightenment, right? So before that, you are mentioning about the mindfulness technique, right? We will have to very clearly understand the techniques are different. Techniques are not mindfulness. Techniques are used to develop a quality, and that quality is the choiceless awareness. And that word I'm taking from the word that is available in Four Foundations of Mindfulness, the word pajanati. What the Blessed One says in the entire Four Foundations of Mindfulness discourse is pajanati, pajanati, pajanati so many times, except for 4 instances where he has mentioned sikkati, and the other one is pachavekati, and there is one more sampajanakari, hoti. And other than those instances, everywhere else he is using pajanati. And we don't teach pajanati. Pajanati means just be aware, just know it, don't react. And these techniques are used to develop that quality, to develop that skill, to develop that ability, to take up that potential. And we are bogged down in techniques, and therefore the quality of non-reactional observation, quality of non-judgmental awareness, quality of keeping the decision pending, quality of choiceless awareness has gone down the drain. So therefore the first thing that we will have to understand is what mindfulness is. Mindfulness is simply choiceless awareness. And then you said stillness of the moment. And when you become mindful, you will have to be, in one place when I told that you will have to be aware, and one person put his hands up and said, are you saying we are not aware? Are you saying that we are not aware now? I said, no, you are aware now. But only thing is your direction of awareness is wrong. Your direction of awareness is outside. Your direction of awareness is other places, other people, and other times. But it has to be introvert. Once it brings inward, then only it becomes insight. So for that, there are 3 things that are necessary. Awareness should be about you, not anybody else. Awareness should be right now, right here. So if you bring awareness to these three things, it's a point. If you bring awareness to this point, then you are mindful. And in that place, many things are happening. Everything is happening now. So many things are happening now. So if you bring your awareness to this here, now, I am, it is not still. It's a factory. It's a huge process going on. But you will develop a skill just to see that without getting involved.
To observe.
You simply choicelessly observe. There are things which are difficult to observe. There are things that you get hooked onto. But either way, you don't identify yourself with that process. You observe that as if you are looking at a third party, as if you are watching a movie. So therefore, when that happens, you feel you are still. What actually happens is so many things are happening, you have disconnected from the things are happening. All this time we have been connected with, we are clinging on to those things. And you can do that only when you don't identify yourself with, it. And as a result, as I said earlier, the first thing that Buddha is trying to teach us is taking the notion of self away. That is how you take the notion of self away without being involved in it. As soon as you get involved in it, you create yourself with that. So, when I say this, there is an extent to which you understand, but that is limited. And when you really practice, you will really understand how it is working.
You stressed on the fact that you have to practice
Yes.
to understand how it works. I want to understand, for a beginner, as you preach, Venerable Thera, what simple practical steps can a beginner take to start looking within, to reflect on the innermost workings of self?
Yeah. Now, when people are living, we always look after the physical process. Although we have a mental process, although the Buddha is teaching that the mind matters most, we have never given any significance to the mind. From the time we are up from the bed until the time you go to the bed, you will be doing so many things to look after your body only, right? So therefore, to bring your attention to right here, right now to yourself, you start labeling everything happening in your physical process. Then you are mindful. There is no need for you to stop anything. You do all what you do, especially when you do things on your own, alone, right? You start labeling. When you eat, you can keep eating, and in your head you can label eating, 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 eating. And eating is a big process, but to a beginner, you can label eating, eating, and keep eating. And you can watch a movie, you label it watching, 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 and keep watching. And when you hear something, you try to bring your attention, if possible, to the ear. Or when you are hearing something, or when you are listening something, listening, 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 listening. So you do something now, and your mind is connected to that with the verbal process, right? So the mind and the body is connected by labeling. So then it comes to here, now, am. So it's not that you will have to wear a robe and have a shaven head, or wear white clothes and go to a temple. While living your day-to-day life, you can be mindful. And there is no need for you to be a Buddhist. Everyone is having a physical process. So everyone is having the right to label what you are doing. Nobody can say no.
While there is psychological benefit of rituals that you engage in, does this mean mindfulness or achieving what the Buddha preached is far beyond basic rituals that we practice? If so, what really is the benefit, Venerable Thera, of achieving that awareness the choiceless awareness you speak about. But before that, for a beginner, a layperson.
Yeah, I mean, the ultimate benefit is the enlightenment, final enlightenment. But on the way, there are so many other advantages. And in the present day world, the mindfulness is used for many things, as a remedy for the mental illnesses, as a remedy for some physical illnesses, to improve leadership qualities, to enhance memory capacity of children, and for so many things, mindfulness is used. But if you use mindfulness to achieve those things, you neither have those things nor the final gain. So therefore, when you practice mindfulness, you should practice mindfulness without any objective to achieve. Having an objective to achieve in itself will defeat the purpose of mindfulness.
Venerable Brisbane Dhammarakkhita Thera has authored this precious book on mindfulness. Mindfulness in a nutshell, talking about this practical guide is in fact specific and simple to ensure that any reader can easily understand, put into practice and avoid intellectual entertainment. Short and sweet presentation encourages readers to experience the practical aspect of mindfulness techniques. If you may please, with respect, I request that you allow me to read out an excerpt. Therefore, for me, the simple equation of mindfulness is mindfulness equals awareness. To refine this explanation of mindfulness further, I like to use a wonderful term coined by the Western world, choiceless awareness. Mindfulness is choiceless awareness. You did mention so. The Buddha's awareness is introspective or introverted, and general awareness is extrospective or extroverted. I think I want a far deeper understanding into that. Why is it so important for us to go within, to look into the inner workings of how this body works, or self, or to delve deeper, rather than be aware of the physical surroundings?
Yeah. No, it's a good question. Now, we are already finding and we are already trying to achieve enlightenment or trying to achieve happiness, if we may use that word, in the surrounding. We try to satisfy our eye, satisfy our sense faculties, and there is no one in the universe who has finished satisfying eye. All these sense faculties are bottomless buckets. There is no amount of money that you earn, there is no amount of houses that you own, there is no amount of cars that you own, whatever luxury that you name, people are not happy. When you look at the world or the things that are happening in the world, so-called developed world, if they are happy, it cannot be like this. They are unhappy, they are not happy with what they have. There is no deficiency with them so far as the materiality is concerned. But still they are not happy. That is because they are looking for happiness outside. So Buddha realized that happiness is not something that is available outside materially. Happiness is a mental factor. So therefore, what drives us to use, what drives us to look for happiness outside has to be changed. So what drives us to look for happiness outside is the notion of me, is the notion of self. So therefore, Buddha just said, just observe your physical body and see whether there is a self. And therefore, you will have to, we consider physical process as self. So therefore, he said, just see whether self is there. So when you practice, again, these are just words only unless you practice. If you really practice, it will come to a point. You can't observe your breath even for a one thought moment. Why? Because there is no self. Even if you observe what you observe now will change in the next thought moment. Why? Because there is no self. You can't keep your attention to the breath, say 1 hour, 45 minutes, whatever. You can't keep your attention. Why? Because there is no self. The fact that self is not there will be seen as soon as you start practice. But people don't accept it. Therefore, you will have to keep on doing until such time you yourself realize, damn it, if I may say, okay, I will be just observing. Then you are ready now to see that there is no self.
Your book, Mindfulness in a Nutshell, says, our teaching recommends 3 main practices to observe the body, the physical process of the body. 1, mindful walking. Mindful sitting is number 2. And 3, mindfulness of the day-to-day activities, and that these mindfulness techniques demand energetic, determined, disciplined and patient training. And I think that would be the hardest part.
This is the reason why most of the people are not coming into the practice, because they are happy with, suffering and trying to satisfy I.
To interrupt, do you think this suffering is interpreted in such way? I'm sure the masses would understand the day-to-day suffering, but do you think there is realization of this suffering to begin with? Because we believe what we have is happiness. I go back to the beginning of our conversation.
Yeah.
You own a car, you're happy, and you believe that's a state that you should, as a man, as a woman, as a family, to have.
Yeah, no, since I have been practicing as a layperson for quite some time, the fact is not that you completely give those things away and come and sit cross-legged, right? You have everything, doesn't matter, but don't get unnecessarily attached and hooked onto those things. Each and everything that we have in the society are serving some purpose. So you take the utility value of them, but don't identify yourself with it. And that is said and done, said easier than done. But when you practice, what happens is, if you are able to be choicelessly aware few thought moments, then you will have an alternative to compare with. Unless you have the practical experience of that alternative, you don't know at the moment you are suffering. So if someone practices either mindful walking or mindful sitting for 5 minutes, in those 5 minutes they will have 5 thought moments where he or she is getting completely disconnected from the materiality. So those thought moments will give that person an indication that there is another alternative for the way of living. Then they will see that is suffering and this is not suffering. And it keeps going at different stages when you practice. So this is how you realize suffering. You realize suffering when you see the other alternative. And what happens is the society is not at least trying that alternative.
The peaceful state that you experience.
Yeah.
So does this mean choiceless awareness is a state of mind?
It's a skill of the mind. It's not a state. If you look for a state, then again that suggestion is coming from the mind to say there is a place to go. It's a skill. The skill that we have is now to react to whatever is there. And the skill Buddha is teaching us is, don't react, just learn the art of not doing anything. Choiceless awareness, observation only. Collect as much data as possible and keep observing. That collection of data is very important. Then you get close to now. You can observe without collecting data. Then what happens is the mind is gradually absorbing us into that particular object that we are observing. Buddha wanted us to collect data. When you collect data, you see what is happening now, what is happening each and every thought moment. So then the mind is not having an opportunity to suck us in. You are not absorbed. Even if you get absorbed, you are aware. So you don't, since you are aware, you are not identifying yourself with that absorption.
That takes us also to the mind. whether the mind is part of one or outside oneself. If you can just take us through that.
Yeah, it's a $1 million question. Yeah, now what Buddha says, there are two places which I'm really taking to explain mind. One is in Dhammapada. Buddha says, Durangamang ekacharang asarirang guhasayang, which means it goes far away. Ekacharang acts alone. Durangamang ekacharang asarirang. There is no body. Mind is an energy. That energy, if people try to see that whether the mind is here, whether the mind is there, whether the mind is in the nervous system or whether the mind is in the brain, they are just roaming around materiality only. It is an energy. The Buddha said, this energy is already defiled. How it is defiled is by using this reactional mentality. He is taking that reactional mentality away from the energy, and as a result, negativity is involved in the energy is gradually reducing. As a result, it will go to the source of the energy, the real original source of the energy, and that Buddha says, Pabassaramidam bhikkhave chittam. At the very outset of the mind, it is bright, and that brightness is defiled by our sense faculties. As soon as that energy is taken by one of the sense faculties, it is defiled. So Buddha is gradually, by observing, is disconnecting all the sense faculties, including the mind. Mind is also a sense faculty. Once it is defiled, once it is having this ability of reaction, and it's very subtle. And when you take that ability of reaction, it is not, that reaction is not physical, that reaction is not verbal, there will have mental reactions working, although you are physically and verbally still. And Buddha is taking those mental reactions also away. So then you go to the real deep layer of the energy. And if you can, then you can see how that energy works within you. And you just keep observing that energy. Gradually you will be able to purify, and there will be a lot of experiences when you get to that stage. And it is something which is practical, which is still alive, which is 100% intact. The path is there, technique is there. It's all in your hand.
One might even question, once you engage in such practice, whether the other end of it would be to renounce your lay life and to go into a monastic life, whether that would be the calling at the end. And another might question whether by doing all this you'd put on hold the other the physical life that we see around us. If you can give us an explanation to this. You lived in Australia for many years, Venerable Thera, as a layman, financier and a father, before you took robes and ordained as a Buddhist monk in 2021.
Yeah, I mean, I did my best practice as a layperson. The reason is lay life is having so much of incentives to look for an alternative.
Incentives, you say?
Yeah. Lay life is an incentive to an intelligent person. I'm not saying the people are unintelligent, but if you look outside the box, and lay life is a stock of suffering only. So therefore, and it is very well seen in the health sector now. They have more mental diseases than when we were kids, right? And it keeps increasing. So therefore, we require a way out of this suffering, and therefore I started my practice as a layperson. And to answer to your question, it is not necessary to give up anything. As I said even earlier, you use all these things, but don't unnecessarily cling on to them. And you can't do it by learning. You can't do it by hearing. You can't do it by thinking. You will have to develop a skill to not to get attached. And that skill is the practice. So what I was doing is, I was practicing as a layperson. So therefore, when you practice, what you do is naturally, you will have to sit and practice as one technique. And in that moment, I'm giving up all the sense faculties for those few hours or few minutes. And that gradually gives you another opportunity to test that something that we have not tested earlier. So thereby, you learn the art of using these material things for their benefit only. Now what has happened is, not that we are consuming the materiality we have, but the materiality is consuming us. Follow what I mean? And it has to be, we consume the materiality. But now what has happened is, materiality is consuming us. So you can make that difference only when you are able to use them for your benefit.
So it's okay to be a consumer, to want
exactly.
to achieve,
exactly.
but to understand the detachment.
Exactly. No.
Venerable Thera, in the interest of time too, I'm going to take the conversation forward as much as possible. The middle path, avoiding both extreme indulgence and extreme asceticism. I think we're getting there. Psychologically, how does mindfulness really help us find the middle ground when we're flooded by intense emotions such as anger, hatred, extreme indulgence in sensuality, and also the need, desire to achieve far more than what you have now?
Yeah. What we see is indulgence in sensuality. So there is no need to explain that. On the other extreme, when Buddha was trying to find this, he has seen the other extreme, where people have given up everything, and people are, even now there are some sects like that. They practice extreme asceticism, extreme, what do you call it? There is a term for it which does not come to in my mind straight away. That practice is also, Buddha said, the two extremes. And what he said was, on one hand you have craving, and on the other hand you have hatred. When you have craving, it goes to sensuality, the indulgence in sensuality. When you have hatred, you hate the sensuality 100%. And you completely move away from sensuality. And that is also wrong. And this is what is happening in our mind. This is what we call reaction. When there is any incident, when there is anything that happens in our physical and mental process, either we like it or dislike it. So it's a representation of that, the two extremes, indulgence and extreme asceticism. I'm sorry. Buddha said not to go there, just observe whatever is there. If you are going towards sensuality, don't hate sensuality, don't get bogged down in sensuality, observe the fact that you are having sensuality. And if you are having hatred, observe that you have hatred, and see how that hatred affects your physical process. So you don't hate the hate. You don't hate the sensuality as well. You don't get bogged down in the sensuality as well. So in that manner, the two extremes can be avoided, but easier said than done.
So does this mean observation of your emotions, whether you're angry, whether you have hate or other emotions, even love, really elevates your mind
exactly
where you are?
Yeah, it's. I don't want to stress the fact that you observe your mind or you observe your emotion. You observe your emotions and at the same time see how it affects your physicality as well. It's very important. Buddha says, kayang panidaya. Kayang panidaya means have a connection to the physical process. You should have, because whatever that happens in the mental process is getting manifested in the physical process. So if you don't see the connection between the two, you will be aware of one side only, the other side is untouched. So therefore you will have to have awareness of both, because existence is both physical process and mental process, name and form. So therefore awareness has to be for both name and form. And people are very, very keen in being mindful of the mind, which is a trick of the mind itself. Then the mind will be able to keep you away from the other side of observation. So therefore Buddha knew this exactly, and he said kayang panidaya, which is lost in the practice now to a great extent.
You took us there. People often confuse mindfulness with a temporary stress relief, probably like a temporary relaxation or spa day for one. But the Eightfold Path, as we talk about Esala Poya and its significance too, when we talk about a blueprint for conscious living, if you can take us through the Eightfold Path and our existence, how we can balance the true nature of human life with our emotions.
Yeah, now Eightfold Path is something that you will really see only after the eradication of suffering. When you take the Four Noble Truths, the last one is the Eightfold Noble Path. But what has happened today is people have taken it first. We are going in the wrong direction.
So samasita, all that is achieved.
Yeah.
The right.
Yeah, the Eightfold Noble Path will be known only to a person who has, or to the extent that you get rid of suffering. The coming out of suffering, only after you have come out of suffering only you know that this, I have followed this path. And this is what Buddha did in those 7 weeks. We have Satsatiya. In those 7 weeks, what Buddha did was, he tried to understand what happened to him. And then he saw the path, he realized the path. And that is what he went and taught in Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, that there is a middle path. And before that he had not seen that. So therefore, this Eightfold Noble Path is the last one in the 37 factors of enlightenment. I can talk about it.
Not something that you
take first and then
try to live by right now before you begin observing your.
Yeah, I mean, for a lay life, there is an Eightfold Noble Path is having 2 sections. One is for lay people, and the other one is for the noble people. And Buddha says you have Eightfold Noble Path for normal living, and that will be asava, upadivepakka, and there is one more word. It will have tense, and it will continue your cycle of rebirth, but it's a good way of living. But there is another one, Arya Anasava Magganga, which means it is noble and it will take away even the tense and you will achieve the final liberation. So there are 2 paths. And in both these paths, the mindfulness is the key. In the discourse of Maha Chattarisika Sutta, Buddha says, you the Sammaditthi, the right view. One will have right view if you know that you are having a wrong view. Knowing having a wrong view in itself is the right view. There is no something called different right view. The right view starts at the point where you accept yourself that I am in the wrong path. So the mind that the right view that we have in mind is completely a different misguided picture. So this is why I am saying the entire Dhamma is on Pajanati. Entire Dhamma is on observation. Entire Dhamma is in knowing, which we have lost.
But how did we travel so far away from the essence of the Dhamma? You were a lay person. You practiced, as you said, in your own words, far more mindfulness as a layperson too.
Yeah.
So where did we really miss that link?
I'm not quite sure whether I should tell this in the mass media.
But as a Buddhist monk, I think your views are very respected.
Yeah, I mean, there are many factors. There are many factors. The way how we have preserved at least what we have now has taken the practice away. Right, so we preserved Dhamma not by practicing, we preserved by Dhamma in a different way. That's one reason. And the other reason is much more serious. I don't know what will happen to me. But anyway, taking Dhamma, and even for that matter mindfulness, as a school subject and as something going to an institution is taking the real practice away. Buddha said in Samyutta Nikaya, if you want to preserve Dhamma, practice 4 foundations of mindfulness. Until such time one is practicing 4 foundations of mindfulness, nobody will be able to take Dhamma away. That is not happening. And as you said at the beginning, we are bogged down in rituals. We are bogged down in so many things. But the Buddha said, one who sees me sees Dhamma. And who practices 4 foundations of mindfulness will see me. So which means Dhamma is 4 foundations of mindfulness. That's a very nice equation he has given. But those things are lost.
Are we in an effort to preserve the Buddha Sasana or the Buddha's philosophy rather than practice and to let go, as the Buddha had preached and shared with us his understanding of life and the cycle of suffering? So before we wrap up, I want to understand and hear from you, Venerable, especially our audience. I think the question is, how do we get there? What must we do? We spoke about mindful walking, mindful sitting, but if you can share with us some simple techniques, how we can practice these on a daily basis, because we are all living busy lifestyles, engaged in much, expecting more than what we have.
Yeah, the simple technique, as I said earlier, is label whatever is happening physically. If you are walking, just keep labeling, have your attention to the walking and keep labeling in your head, walking, walking, walking.
To be aware that you're walking.
Exactly.
Say, I'm walking.
Yeah, when you are eating, don't use a sentence, just a word. Eating, eating, eating. Drinking, I mean, while drinking, don't say drinking. And while eating, don't say eating. But in your head, you just keep labeling. And watching a movie, watching, listening, feeling something, feeling. And whatever you do in your physical process, it may be something that you cannot tell openly. Just label it. Just label it and engage in it. No one to stop. You are mindful. And Buddha says, even in the toilet, when you urinate and defecate, label it and be mindful of it. So it's such a human thing, and it's the main skill that any human being has to develop, has to understand.
Practically also speaking, for example, when we have daily work, when we have targets to achieve, or when we have other activities to fulfill, how do you plan ahead? Because we find ourselves planning in the shower, planning while you work, thinking about it.
Yeah.
So how do you manage all that?
No, planning is possible now. Planning is done now. Right? You don't go to the future and do it. You are doing it now, so you knowingly you plan. What happens is, when you plan now, we try to go to future. We miss the experientiable place that you are in. When you think about something in the past, you go to the past. You don't know it is happening now. So if you know it is happening now, doesn't matter. So the knowing is taking the friction that we have. That's all what it does by observing.
And you spoke about rebirth, and some of us talk about what we should do now to have a better life, or to have a better maybe lifestyle in the next birth? Should that be the concern now, is my question.
No, one who is practicing mindfulness should not have any idea about the next birth. He will have to be observing now. If you are having any expectations about not the next birth, at least the next thought moment, you are not mindful. Mindfulness is observing right here, right now of yourself.
And very importantly, I want to talk about solitude and isolation quickly. What this does to us at some point in our journey to achieving a mindful state.
Yeah, you will be mentally separated. Solitude is a mental thing. You can be, so many thousands of people, but you can confine yourself to yourself. And things are happening around, you are not getting connected. And which I have practiced. When you are a lay person, you will have to go for parties, and you will have to go for that festival and this festival. And in fact, when my kids were small, and I will have to take them to watch the matches when the Sri Lankan team comes to Brisbane. So, and I just watching the match, in my head I'm saying, watching, and they scream at me, at least clap, at least smile, at least laugh. It doesn't happen because I'm there and I'm disconnected from everything else. I'm just watching the match. My physical process.
Are you aware of what's happening around at that moment?
No, so many things are happening now, right? But what is important for me is what I am actually connected. If you try to, get connected with everything else, there is no end. This is what has happened to us. The Buddha says, take the most prominent thing for you and observe that. And when you observe that, you naturally get disconnected from the others. So your energy is conserved. This tension comes because the energy is being distributed for so many things at the same time.
As you challenge yourself, the challenge for some would be how you remain calm when all your expectations and desires collapse or are shattered, and some even resort to taking one's own life in the name of ending suffering. What is your answer to that?
No, this is something that only Buddha saw. We are going towards renunciation. You are going towards letting go. It comes to a point when you let go of everything that you will realize there is no point living. And it is much better to die. Buddha said that is also a craving. This craving nobody else has taught. He said, Vibhava Tanha. Buddha said, if you do that, you are not my disciple. When you get to that state, and a lot of people who are practicing, they are saying, Bhante, this is happening, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. And then the teacher should be able to show them the hatred that they have within them. And people realize. And after realizing that, there is no other thing to put us down. Those people will be living happily ever after. And that is the ultimate happiness that the Buddha is trying to teach us.
Thank you very much. With much respect, Venerable Dhammarakkhita Thera, for teaching us that the most important retreat is not anywhere physical, but to that space between our thoughts. I most respectfully
Blessings.
thank you for your time here this Esala Poya day. Brisbane Dhammarakkhita Thera, the Venerable Thera, is a Sri Lankan Buddhist monk, an author and mindfulness teacher based in Australia, and the founder of Samahita Mindfulness Group, ordained as a Buddhist monk back in 2021. The Venerable Thera has trained in forest monasteries, including the Mithirigala Nissarana Vana in Sri Lanka. He previously, the Venerable Thera, lived in Australia for many years as a layman, financier, and a father. And most importantly today, travels teaching the art of mindfulness and the importance of mindfulness in life. Once again, we say thank you for watching and for being a part of this conversation, and with a hopeful discussion coming up next Poya Day, we say have a pleasant evening and may you be aware.
Sati, awaken to the present.